Chicago is known as the city that works. But when all that work is over, no one appreciates rest and relaxation like a Chicagoan, which is why they kick their feet up on a TimberTech deck. TimberTech decks are stunning, sustainable decks backed by massive amounts of technology. And that means better performance, greater durability, and a look and feel more like real wood. Better tech, better deck. For a great outdoor space, hey, it's simply magnificent. TimberTech. Go against the grain.
One of the ultimate sports writers here in the Bay Area is John Shea of the San Francisco Chronicle. Love reading John Shea and love talking to him even more. John, how are you doing this, I guess, afternoon now?
Hey, Dieter. Good. Always good talking with scribes who dominate the airwaves, man. You and Mr. Crowley.
Yeah, the domination is what I leave to Carrie. Whatever the hell it is I do, we'll talk about some other time off the air. Speaking of domination, though, thank you for the easy segue. What the hell? I mean, we haven't talked in a minute now. The Giants are the best team in baseball. It still doesn't make much sense. Clearly, there's a secret sauce somewhere in this concoction, this incredible brew that they got going on. Have you been able to put your finger on kind of what it is that has these Giants in this incredible position that no one saw coming?
Well, it's a new way of roster usage, and pretty much everybody is involved. Speaking with Austin Slater after the game last night, I was asking him, he basically, confirmed that everybody, especially the hitters, the position guys, right, need to be ready, all 9 innings, because things could change. They pull a lefty, now there's a righty. You're going to see a whole new lineup. I mean, there were 3 left-handed pinch hitters yesterday, and there would have been more if the Rockies concluded that comeback and sent it to the bottom of the 9th. Now we would have seen Crawford hit, maybe Belt, which would have been 5 left-handed pitch hitters. And that's unheard of. And you could do it the other way around when Posey sits out, or some of the right-handed bats who would be available off the bench against tough lefties. So it's with the extra man, the 26th man, and kind of a manipulation of the bullpen guys coming and going every day. Right. Who might have pitched a little bit more and need a blow in AAA. There's always someone else ready and willing to come up and fill a spot. And meanwhile, these guys are all fresh because none of them, except for maybe Crawford and Yastrzemski, play all the time. Right. So everybody in August, when your legs are usually killing you, are they're fresh. I mean, Posey, most of all. We've never seen this since 2014. Right. His ability to drive the ball as he's driving the ball now. His ability, to play and to produce, because the way the previous coaches used him, days off were at first base, and those are fighting words for guys like JT Snow. That's no day off. But with Posey, now days off are 2 days off, unless rare situation he hits in the 9th or the 8th inning or something. But right, the way they're using these guys just keeps everybody fresh over the long guys, and that's especially important after a 60-game season in which nobody really stretched out, and they just weren't used to suddenly going to spring training and working out for 6 weeks and then playing 162 games. Nobody could do that. The days of Hunter Pence wanting to play all 162 are long gone.
And one step beyond that, I mean, I compared the way that the Giants were handling the roster to kind of the way the Tampa Bay Rays have done things over the last couple of years, where they basically just have 2 lineups. They have a lineup against lefties and a lineup against righties, but the Giants seem to be taking it, as you alluded to an entirely other level, because they have to play National League baseball, and substitutions are so much heavier in that league. So it has been, you have to stay engaged for sure, not only if you're a player, but also if you're a fan. And right now, I think that the only concern I have about this team is now the starting rotation. DeSclafani comes back and pitches just fine last night. Wood's kind of back on the right track. Webb has taken a step forward. Gausman shook off a bad start a couple starts ago and is back to being Kevin Gausman. But where does it stand now with the 5th starter? Aaron Sanchez has been released. Johnny Cueto's on the IL. I mean, who the hell's even starting tonight?
Yeah, well, that's That's the thing. Saturday, this is the bullpen day. So, we're going to see relievers march out there. And you probably, I think we all wrote that, it's important at the deadline to pick up starting pitchers.
Yeah, Farhan said it.
Yeah, Sammy Long's pitching tonight. So, he's not going to go 7-8 innings. They're going to use some relievers. But I thought that was a mistake that they didn't pick up either relievers or starters.
Right.
And, it's wonderful to bring in Chris Bryant. It's just adding more to the same. Their lineup, which was good, is now deeper. It was like the Brian Sabian thing. Forget about where we are, just add good players. Remember, they brought in Roberto Hernandez, even though they had a closer in Rod Beck.
Right.
And it's like more of the same is okay. And that's what the Giants did with Chris Bryant. And, he's playing all over the diamond, and he loves center field of all things. But, we used to remember him only as a third baseman, but his versatility is pretty incredible. And he hits the ball so hard every at-bat. But they're lacking, I think, in the rotation. I don't think they match up, or they won't match up, to the Dodgers, who are going to be getting, Kershaw pretty soon. Cole Hamels, of all people, are showing up there, and Duffy, who they signed, thinking that eventually he would join the fray. Right. So the Giants don't have guys. After getting rid of Aaron Sanchez yesterday, they basically released him. He wanted to start. He's not a bullpen guy. He doesn't want to go to the minors, and he just wants to be available somewhere to start and help a team now. But
good luck to him.
Maybe he'll get that opportunity. It wasn't working out with the Giants. They didn't really like what he was offering. So I think, you're right. I think they could have done more at the deadline with pitching. And there's a little leakage, as we saw with McGee last night, and these are the dog days supposedly, and we'll see if this pitching could hold up the next 6 weeks.
Well, they already have a head start. I mean, we can argue that they didn't do everything that they probably needed to do at the deadline, but they have a head start on free agency for next year with this Brandon Crawford 2-year agreement at $16 million a year, which is just an absolute song for a player who has been as good as Crawford this year. Do you get the sense that more of these kind of signings might be imminent, that like a Brandon Belt might get a deal like this, that Buster Posey might get an extension on him? Do you feel like that's something that could be in the cards, or is Crawford sort of the exception to the rule here?
Well, I think there's going to be more of this. I asked yesterday because I just don't remember extensions like this coming in the final couple of months of a season.
Right.
Yeah, maybe in April when negotiations carried over beyond opening day. Let's get this done and then focus on the season. But mid-August, you're signing a 2-year extension. And obviously it hasn't been a distraction because Crawford, is top of his game. Mm-hmm. And everybody rallies around him. He's pretty beloved in that clubhouse.
No doubt.
And everyone seemed to be thrilled that, he's going to be sticking around for 2 more years. But they have so many darn free agents. They need to get guys in the books for next year and beyond. I mean, their whole pitching staff, except for Webb, is going to be a free agent. Gausman, DeSclafani, Wood, even Cueto, the one guy they probably wouldn't be real interested in bringing back. But,
right.
A couple infielders, Flores, Solano, though Flores has a $3.5 million option, which seems to be a no-brainer.
Right.
The big three, one of them is signed, but you mentioned the other two, Belt and Posey, and of course Chris Bryant,
right.
Who they'd love to. He's going to be the most expensive. But I would say that Posey would have to come back, because you look at Crawford, and there's really no shortstop ready. Dubon is hitting great in Sacramento, and 360 or something like that. But I think they still view him as a guy who can float around the diamond. And Luciano is a couple of years away. So they needed a shortstop for next year, and they probably need a catcher for next year. I don't know how thrilled they are about Joey Bart being the everyday guy. Wow. Maybe he's the guy who comes in and replaces Casale, though they probably hate to lose Casale, and play once a series and allow Posey to play the other two like last year. But Farhad Zaidi said yesterday, we want to keep this group together. So the whole rebuilding thing never really started, and it's not probably ever going to happen for maybe a couple more years when these other young guys come up,
right?
Especially when they're one of the oldest teams in the league. Most of their guys are 30-plus, and now they're re-signing guys in their mid-30s. So it's kind of the old school way of the way Giants used to do it. Yeah. But in this case, maybe these aren't really golden parachutes. They're legitimate contracts because these guys, are still, cranking it out after all these years.
And it's shorter term, right? There's not that much risk for the Giants if Brandon Crawford comes out next year and, heaven forbid, stinks it up. Okay, there's one more year left on the contract, and the Giants have more money than God. They can just eat it. They can just figure out a way to make it happen. They're not locked in for 6, 7, 8 years to a player who probably only has, 3 or 4 at the absolute best available in him. I'm generally curious, just as someone who's around the team, and I've been watching from afar, either from in the booth, just TV stuff and catching these Zooms. Like, is the belief about this team from this team, has it grown in recent weeks? Because it feels to me as if the thing that stands out with this squad more than anything else is just kind of their gumption, their kind of stick-to-itiveness, or whatever the hell you want to call it. They seem to have a scrap to them, which is certainly going to be very well served come September, October, and you can argue is already being served in an effective way now. But have you seen this team buy in? Every team comes into the season saying we're going to win the World Series. And, it's a bit of a surprise. We get to June, and it's like, these guys are really good. And you get to the All-Star break, and it's still the best team in baseball. Have they kind of taken on that role a little bit more as the hunted, not necessarily the hunters?
They really believe in themselves. It almost reminds me of 1993 or 2000, especially toward the end, when those teams, you just knew they were going to win somehow, some way. Like covering the A's back with La Russa in the late 80s, early 90s, it got so difficult to write game stories because they were all the same. The same great closers would come out there and finish it. The same awesome lineup would bang throughout 9 innings, and the starting pitchers was lights out. And now we're seeing a whole lot of different ways they're winning because they have so many different characters. But those teams like, that A's team, the 93 team that won 103, the 2000 team, first year in Pacific Bell Park that had the best record in baseball, they all finished really strong. And you just wondered how they were going to do it every night. And that's how they're doing it. A couple of years ago, you're wondering how the Giants were going to lose. Now you're wondering how they're going to win. And the belief is, I think, constant throughout the clubhouse. I remember conversations with Alex Dickerson. And we don't, as reporters, you always ask why. Why is this happening? And you come up with reasons if they don't, like, well, they're hitting all this home runs because of the dimensions. They're hitting all these home runs because they covered the openings out there in right field. Right. And Dickerson kind of snapped in his mild way on a Zoom call and said, man, you guys are always making excuses. We hit the ball hard. We're good. Believe in us. I said, oh, okay. I guess you're right. He has a point.
Yeah, listen, until proven otherwise, and it's been months now, I'm starting to think that we're not going to be proven otherwise. I understand the skepticism, though. I really do. And maybe there's a bit of an inferiority complex with the fan base. And listen, the Dodgers look awesome, but they're not playing awesome. They're not playing as awesome as the Giants, and the Giants, again, they seem to have just something a little bit different. Maybe it's just that belief, and they faked it until they made it, and they're making it now. And we got about a month and a half here of just awesome baseball to come. John Shea will chronicle all of it for the San Francisco Chronicle. Thank you so much for coming on, my friend, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Yeah, sounds good, Dieter. My pleasure. Thank you.
John Shea, ladies and gentlemen, one of the best in the game.
Imagine a deck, a bunch of straight, parallel boards. Sure, they're evenly spaced, but so are prison bars. Break free with TimberTech's line of premium multi-width decking. Mix and match widths and enjoy technology that produces the best real wood look. Better tech means a better deck, so you can create a look inspired by the latest design trends instead of, Alcatraz. Chicago, get inspired and start designing your dream deck today at TimberTech.com. Go against the grain